The St Marcellin Champagnat Award is an award that was devised by Marcellin College through a relationship with another Marist school over in South Africa, in which Marcellin sends 3 old boys every year over to help at the school with what they're doing there with the 3 to 6 program. So there was a big selection process, an application process that all 3 of us had to go through, involving an expression of interest with a letter, just detailing some of our past experiences, particularly with volunteering and that kind of thing. And then there was a few people shortlisted. And then from there we heard back a little bit later. The 3 of us were lucky enough to get the position. So we were sent over by Marcellin. They took care of all our accommodation and flights and everything, and from there we're just able to kind of really get involved in the 3 to 6 holiday program and help out with whatever we could.
So the 3 to 6 project was started by a college in South Africa in Johannesburg. Gradually there were a couple of other schools that came on, but pretty much now what they do was there's a holiday program that we went over and helped, and that started as a result of the World Cup a few years ago, where they wanted to get kids off the street to stop the child trafficking at the time. So now they're running holiday programs, and during the day they're using the facilities of the school to help these refugee children that can't get into the mainstream schooling system. I guess for me, one of the biggest things was that a lot of people were telling me it was going to be a pretty confronting experience. You know, it's a very different environment, especially for what we're used to over here. And I think I had that initial expectation where people are saying it's, you know, it is going to be very different from the things that we've experienced growing up, and you know, I think that was very true to a degree, and so I guess that was probably one of my biggest apprehensions leading into it, just the expectation of it all, and I guess going to an environment that we're not used to. So
yeah, I was, but they all just came running. And before I knew, I was playing soccer with, you know, these little grade preps, not going easy on them at all. And yeah, I got to meet countless kids that day, and I tried my hardest to remember as many names as I could. And then, yeah, I guess the first day of the actual holiday program, you know, it was so nice coming in, and I already had met, you know, a third of the kids.
So my first impressions of the kids were incredible. I remember being taken to an observatory school in Yeovil for prep graduation on just a few hours after coming off the plane, and I remember walking around the corner and they were all lined up and they all ran up and hugged me, even though they had no idea who this strange white man was, and it was just the perfect welcome.
I think the first thing I felt when we were coming to Johannesburg was exhaustion, because we just hopped off a pretty long flight. I think it might have been 4 in the morning. But yeah, we went straight into the accommodation, so it was, you know, we thought we had a bit of rest on our hands, but apparently not after we got woke up a couple of hours later. But that was yeah, it was a really fun first day. Actually, I thought it was yeah, it was quite cool, quite a different environment. I guess also a little bit confronting in the sense that there were a few, I guess you could call them slums around, and I guess that's more common in Johannesburg than we probably realise over here, but a lot of those places in South Africa have those, I guess, areas of, let's call them disadvantage, but that was quite confronting. And then all of a sudden, going to the accommodation where the school is, you've got affluence probably beyond even what we know of here, you know, so it's a really big contrast, and that was the striking thing about Johannesburg for me.
I guess the biggest impact for me was just coming back and I guess looking at the things I used to take for granted, and yeah, things that used to bother me and really kind of affect me. It just trying to put that in perspective a little bit more. You know, you come home after a tough day at uni or work, and sometimes you feel a bit sorry for yourself, and then you get to the dinner table and mum's cooked something you don't like, and you just kind of think, you know, at least I'm eating. At least I've got a really good hearty meal. These kids, like, I don't have to share it with anyone. I've got a full bowl for myself. Just little things like that. I'm just trying to, yeah, I guess you still have to consciously kind of make sure it doesn't affect you, but it just, I don't know, when you put it into perspective, some of the things we worry about here are just just ridiculous. There's nothing really that's having that much of an issue or, you know, really taking that much difficult, like it's not that hard to get over, but, you know, we make such a big deal out of these things.
In circumstances that are probably less than ideal in many cases. You know, to see, like I was talking about before, to see their smiles and to see their happiness in the face of something that's, you know, not exactly ideal all the time. I think that's really special, and you know, that's the way that I really saw faith coming through in a lot of ways when I was in South Africa.
Yeah, well, I think that faith kind of keeps these kids going and keeps them smiling, getting to the next day. And similarly, the teachers there, a lot of them I realised were refugees themselves, and they've kind of picked themselves up, come over to this new place, and have been able to get jobs as teachers, teaching these other refugee kids, and they were extremely faithful people as well. And I think
So I think a few of the moments that really struck me, the things that were really special and that I'll definitely take with me, were both positive and negative, because I think some of these experiences that are the most profound are, it's hard to say, whether it's one or the other, because I think some of the things that really touched me and moved me that I think were positive were actually did come from quite sad stories. I remember one of the kids in my classes, during the day, she was always a very smiley girl, really happy-go-lucky. At lunch, she always used to get a little bit quiet, a little bit timid and to the side. And I realised she never used to have her lunch on her, and she always used to come up to me and ask, do you have a sandwich? And inevitably I'd end up giving away all my food over lunch. I think I ate for 2 weeks, but they'd always ask for this food, and I was wondering why, if you're not lined up, if you're not got your food. And generally the kids, during lunchtime you'd play with them, you'd pick them up, and what I started to realise, there were no pockets. They were lined with food that, I asked her what she was doing with it, and she denied. She said, oh no reason. I realised later that she's one of the kids, and I guess they do tell you about this, that are taking their lunch home for their families, which was a very, very strong experience for me.
One of the most memorable experiences for me was taking the kids swimming. Obviously, Johannesburg's in the middle of South Africa with no ocean around it, and obviously the kids are quite impoverished, so a lot of them don't get the opportunity to swim, and just the joy on their faces and the wonderment they had of the water was really special, and something that I'll treasure for a long time.
So my highlight of the trip came on the last day, after spending the week in Grade R, which is the equivalent of our prep over here. And I picked my favourite little kid. He was just a ball of energy, and he had a lot of trouble in the classroom. He failed Grade R 3 times that year, and on the last day I just couldn't find him anywhere. I just wanted to say goodbye, and I'd say goodbye to everyone else, but I couldn't find this young little fella anywhere. And then out of nowhere I just hear him, Sean, he runs up to me, jumps up in my arms, and he said, Sean, I graduated, I'm going to Grade 1 next year. And he was just so happy, and all he wanted to do was tell me, and I put him down. I was almost in tears myself. I was so happy. So I guess my main piece of advice for anyone who's thinking about going over to South Africa would be, just go over there ready to learn. Don't go over there with a massive ego. Don't think you're going over there to change all these kids' lives. You're there for 2 weeks. They teach you more than you teach them.
What I would say to those thinking about applying, well, I would just say apply. It's probably the best experience of my life, and I think it's important that as many boys in this great college get to experience it as well.
So I think my advice would definitely be to go into the program with an open mind and I guess an open heart as well. I know that does sound a little bit intangible, but it really is an important thing. I realised that one of the most special things for me was seeing how these kids really open themselves up and make themselves vulnerable to you. I think it's got to be something that's reciprocated if you want to take the most out of the program. It's being open to that experience and allowing yourself to be moved by what you see and allowing yourself to be affected, I guess positively or negatively, is something that really makes it a meaningful and significant experience in life. So that's definitely my best piece of advice. I think allowing yourself to be vulnerable and open and able to be affected and moved.